Welcome back to the channel. In a video I did recently with John Soden, we put a lightweight Hysteria on the scales to see how much it weighed. This gave me the idea to put a range of different cars and components from my pit box onto the scales, just to show how much variance there can be in the weight of similar looking components. First up on the scales is this Pro Slot Toyota GT1, which is probably one of the lightest cars I own. At just under 67 grams, I predict it will be a lot lighter than this Carrera Digital Ferrari 488, which is probably one of the heaviest. Let's see. Over 110 grams proves that this is no lightweight, but it is a digital car, so let's take the chip out and see what that weighs. It's only 4.5 grams. What about this DPR hatch from Scalextric? Just under 3, and that includes the plastic base. So let's try the base by itself, 1.6, so that's about half the weight of the assembly. This Oxygen Type B chip comes in at 2.5 grams, and the later, smaller Oxygen C chip is a little lighter, only 2 grams. Let's try some more different types of car. First up, we'll try this Ninco McLaren F1 GTR, which is a very early pedigree of Ninco car. These usually had thick body shells, so we'll weigh that first. Just a whisker over 28 grams. That is quite heavy by today's standards. Next up, we'll go for this Scalextric Porsche 991. Scalextric's recent cars have their bodies simplified compared to how they used to be, so this shouldn't be too heavy. Let's see. Yeah, just under 23 grams is pretty reasonable. Now let's have a look at something on the performance end of the spectrum. This NSR Corvette C6R should do the trick nicely. 21 grams is much more like it if we're talking about competitive racing weights. But what about 3D printing? The bare shell of this Area 71 Ferrari comes in at just 12.3 grams, which is very light indeed. Let's compare that to this bare Carrera Ferrari shell, see what that comes in at. 23 grams is more than the entire Scalextric 991. But we didn't have the glass fitted to this Area 71 Ferrari, so let's chuck that on and see what difference that makes. Hardly anything, it's now just over 14 grams, and that's without trimming the excess. Parts now, let's try some wheels. First up, NSR air rim at just under 1 gram. Next up we'll try a standard Ninco plastic wheel, which should be lighter as it's not made of aluminium. Wrong, I guess the extra detail on the spokes have pushed it over the threshold. How about this professional plastic wheel from MB Slot? Same design as the NSR, but made of nylon. And it is lighter, at only 0.6 grams. This magnesium wheel by Slotted steals the show, however, coming in at under 0.8 grams. How about the inserts? This NSR insert weighs just 0.3, which means it's probably equivalent to the Ninco once it's fitted. However, this Avant insert proves that all inserts are not equal, coming in at just 0.1 grams. Gears next, and we'll start with this NSR angle winder spur, 0.6. What about the equivalent from Slotted? Onto the scales it goes, and it's slightly heavier at 0.76. Now let's try this Slotted angle winder hybrid gear with nylon teeth and an aluminium boss. It's lighter and closer to the NSR at 0.67 grams. Let's try the Slotted inline crown gear. This is the nylon gear with the bronze boss. Aluminium boss is also an option. This one is 3 grams. Now for an absolutely bog standard Scalextric 27 tooth crown. At 0.6 it's really not that heavy. Let's try some axles next. First up, a standard 55mm solid steel axle. These are going to be amongst the most common type of axles fitted to all brands and types of slot cars. The benchmark is set at 1.77 grams. Now let's have a look at how much we can save with one of the common tuning options. This is a hollow steel axle where the centre has been drilled out, and by doing so we can see that we're saving around 3/4 of a gram. This is only 1.05. A less common but just as valid tuning option is a titanium axle. This comes in at 1.09, so it's about the same as a hollow axle. But if we want to make some serious gains, it's time to do what all the big boys do and switch to carbon fibre. In use only on the front of cars for ultimate weight saving, the carbon axle is a measly 0.36 grams. Now let's try some motors. We'll go with a standard Scalextric S-can, an NSR boxer motor, a slotted S-can and a slotted flat 6. First up with this Scalextric S-can. Tips to scales is 17.2 grams. Comparing directly with the slotted S-can, a similar motor shape and size, we can see it's 19.7, which is a little heavier. Let's have a look at the boxer cans next. First up the NSR 21K King, which is standard issue for most of their ready-to-run cars. My motor orientation video already describes the fact that boxer motors are heavier, so let's see what this one weighs. 32.3. The slotted flat motor is very similar to a boxer can, but has a lower profile and therefore is slightly smaller. This motor is fitted as standard to all slotted LMP cars, and it tips the scales at just under 30 grams. Let's revisit the interior trays, as this was my inspiration for the entire video. This headless interior tray from a Scalextric 330i BTCC car weighs just 8.27, which really isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. But when we compare it to this lightweight Lexan interior, which by the way I fitted an additional roll cage to, we can see the difference can be quite astonishing. This is only 1.2 grams. Let's have a look at some axle assemblies next. This is a rear axle assembly from a Scalextric BTCC car. Putting it on the scales gives us a weight of 7.3 grams. Now let's have a look at an axle assembly made with some professional parts. This is a slotted axle with a 26 tooth bronze crown and aluminium wheels. It's just a fraction shy of 12 grams, but the extra weight will be more than made up for by the quality of the components. That's all for today's video. I hope you found it interesting and understand it's not just the scrutineers that are interested in these kinds of details. Weight can have a big effect on the handling characteristics of slot cars, so keep an eye on those scales. See you next time.